For various offices, and I'm very impressed about the quality of candidates that we get for these offices. I gather there are upwards of a half dozen people looking at the sheriff's race. I'm not going to speak to that race, but it's too bad, we can't have all 5 or 6 be sheriff. This would be the safest county in the country, right? All these things will play out, and I know that we're going to stay unified as a Republican Party. Because this coming year is so important. I venture to say that it is the most important election of our lifetime. Now that phrase may be familiar to those of you who've been to Republican events in recent years, because I and others have said it before. Last election was also the most important election of our lifetime. But Sally and I were just talking, and she said, "How are things going in Washington?" I said, Sally, I love this job. I love mixing with people and trying to help out where I can in terms of dealing with some challenges they might be facing with government agencies and even legislating, drafting our own bills and trying to improve the law where we can. But let's face it, we're just not dealing with the nation's most important challenges right now. And it's because we don't have enough conservatives in Washington. And we have an opportunity here, I think, to change that. We can hold on to the House, pick up control of the Senate in 2014, and put ourselves in a position to put a real conservative in the White House in 2016. Is that what all of you want?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's why I'm involved in this, and more specifically why I'm involved in this. I've got 4 young kids, which is why after I speak here, I'll be going home and seeing them and seeing my wife. And it's the younger set, though, that is going to be especially impacted by the course our country is currently on. As I go around and talk to people, they talk to me about jobs in the economy. People that have jobs are afraid they're going to lose them. They're wondering why their wages or their salary hasn't changed much in 5, 6, 10 years. They're wondering why some people are doing well and they seem to be standing still. And there are a whole lot of people who've been looking for a good paying job, maybe any kind of job at all, for some period of time here. We're just not growing enough jobs in this country. And it's the Millennial Generation, those people age 30 and under, that in particular I think have been really hit hard by some of the policies we've seen coming out of Washington. Now keep in mind, this is the group that disproportionately supported President Barack Obama when he first ran for office. And recent polling, there's this Harvard Institute of Politics poll that came out the other day. They're not conservative, they're not liberal, it's just a good polling institute. And they say that 41% of millennials now support this president. And his numbers continue to go down. Now, I don't really celebrate that fact. But I think it presents a real opportunity, because as the president's numbers fall, the numbers of those who support the president's policies fall. What sort of policies are we talking about? Well, I mean, jobs and the economy, I think, is the leading one. You have to start with that. Our economy has just been stagnant. Businesses aren't investing in expansion. They're not hiring enough new workers. There's so much uncertainty in the economy. And, I think we did some things, like changed our tax code so that it was less complicated, flatter, fair. That would do a lot to grow our economy more. And that's one of the things I'm working on in Washington. It's not glamorous, but I would say when you haven't reformed your tax code in over 25 years, it's about time to take a look at the darn thing. We're trying to do that to make ourselves more competitive as compared to the other countries in the world. We actually have the highest business tax rates in the world right now. And that's no way to incentivize people to invest in American workers, who I still believe are the hardest working, most capable, most productive workers in the world, if only we would unleash their energy. The other thing I'm hearing quite a bit about, you may have heard about it, is Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. Now, of course, the rollout has been a complete disaster. Even the late night hosts are starting to poke fun at the president's health care law. I think it was Conan O'Brien who said, you know, it's a scam website if you get online and are able to quickly and efficiently buy health insurance. So, you know, the website was the first of many problems. We've got premiums and co-pays going up. We've got concerns about accessibility of health care. You know, primary care doctors in places like Salem, Indiana are closing up shop. What's going to happen if that continues to be the case? Well, the old, the infirm, the mother at home with a couple of kids who has a tough time putting gas in the car is going to have to go a long way to see a primary care physician. And that's not only going to jeopardize the health of our citizens, it's going to inconvenience them, it's going to increase the cost of care. These are the sorts of things we're going to be wrestling with next Congress, in addition to this Congress. And I want conservatives to work at it this time around. Let's not have a big partisan solution, one-size-fits-all solution. Washington knows best solution to our health care challenges, and there are plenty of them to talk about. Let's instead work in a deliberative way. Let's allow people to buy health insurance across state lines. Let's put a cap on some of those junk lawsuits that are driving up health care costs. Let's allow folks to pool together for more negotiating leverage with these big insurance companies. Let's start with some common sense solutions like that before we blow up the entire system. And so if you put more Republicans in office, those are the sorts of things you're going to see more of. I've introduced a bill that will address this new definition of full-time in the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare. Is anyone familiar with this issue? Under Obamacare, the new full-time is actually 30 hours. So if you're an employer and you employ 50 or more people that work 30 hours or more, then you have to provide them government-sanctioned, government-approved health insurance. And that kind of sounds good on its face, right? I mean, I want everyone to be covered. I think we ought to do it by bringing down the cost of care, though, so that people can afford their own health insurance. But what's happening here is we have small businesses that are dropping down hourly workers, people, you know, hardworking people that work at McDonald's or other places. They're going from 38 hours down to 29, 28 hours a week. Well, I mean, if you asked a lot of these people whether they'd rather have the Obamacare insurance or more hours, I think you're going to have a whole lot of them say they want more hours, because I've talked to a bunch of them. And over the course of the month, if you do the math, the difference between, let's say they're working 39 hours a week, they get dropped down to 29 hours under this new law, that's 10 hours a week. That's 40 hours a month. That's an entire work week they are losing as a result of this health care law. So all the legislation does that I'm working on, and I'm optimistic it's going to get a fair hearing in coming weeks in the House, is that it increases, restores the old definition of full-time back up to 40 hours. Saying, as a legislature, as a country, that gosh darn it, if somebody wants to work full-time, somebody wants to work hard to put themselves and their family in a better position, we ought to let them do so. And so I hope Harry Reid will take this up in the Senate. I hope it will pass out of the House in a bipartisan way. And it certainly will have a better chance if we keep control of the House, win control of the Senate. There's all sorts of other issues that, you know, a lot of us care deeply about. We have some folks in the agriculture industry here, some who dabble in it, and regulations bother you a lot. I've got a bill to overhaul our regulatory system. We certainly don't want to neglect the humblest among us. I'm working on some legislation, you'll hear more about it in coming weeks, that is targeted toward helping low-income Americans with solutions that have been proven to work through our churches, through our not-for-profits, and so forth around this country. Rather than continuing to invest in these big government programs that we know aren't working on this 50th anniversary on the war on poverty, let's instead scale up things that have been scientifically proven to work. And oh, by the way, let's pay for it by bringing in some private capital, philanthropic dollars, and only paying back these private investors if benchmarks are met that they've contracted to meet. So it's all common sense stuff. and therefore we're going to have to fight hard to make it into law, okay? That's my agenda. Now, more broadly speaking, let me talk about the opportunity we have in this election. People are fired up. People are starting to get angry. They're of course mad at Congress. I admit that the institution of Congress is less popular right now than NFL replacement referees, all right? That's where we're at. But our office has done our darndest to be one of the most accessible congressional offices in the country. In fact, we were recently rated the third most accessible of 535 offices over the August recess. I'm proud of that fact. People ask me who the other two were, and my standard response is, well, they don't have families, all right? You know, this election is one that President Obama has already targeted as his #1 objective. He's spending seemingly all of his campaign resources from the last election, the money, the ground troops. He's already activated them, and he's spending seemingly all of his time around the country doing fundraisers for congressional candidates in battleground districts, raising money for Senate candidates, and not too infrequently speaking ill of people on the other side of the aisle. And so we've got to take this election every bit as seriously. And our opportunity exists in the fact that people are fed up. And in this part of the country, Republicans in particular, our ranks have been growing in recent years. And so people like you who would come out on a cold day here in southern Indiana, we need you engaged, we need you activated. When it comes time, we need you working the phones on my campaign and on other campaigns, going door to door, talking to your neighbors, and helping us get out the vote so that we can grow more Republicans in southern Indiana. And I'm humbled at this opportunity, not just to be here tonight, but to represent all of you, to stand for election again. We're officially a candidate after having filed papers yesterday for the 9th Congressional District. And so my name is going to be on that ballot, but really I'm just the person out front. Person out front of our party folks, and I like to think the person out front of our children and grandchildren, all the policies that would benefit them as we look to the future. So thanks for this opportunity, Sarah and the rest of you. And they have a filibuster in the United States Senate. They don't have it in the House, so I'm going to stop talking. I will open up the floor for a few questions, though. And if there aren't any, that's fine, too.
Let's suppose that we are successful in getting the Senate, control of the Senate. Will we run roughshod over these people?
If we're successful in winning, keeping control of the House and then winning the Senate, that's going to give us more leverage. So essentially, when we sit down at the negotiating table, we'll have a lot better ability to get what we want passed into law. We'll be sending a lot more bills to the President's desk, which will put him in an awkward position. Right now, probably the most powerful person in Washington, D.C. Is Harry Reid, the Senate Majority Leader. He's essentially the shadow veto for, and I know why you're up here, he's a shadow veto for our President. Every time the House produces a jobs bill, every time the House produces a regulatory reform bill, frankly, every time the House votes on and passes a piece of legislation that all of you would like, Harry Reid deep sixes it because it's going to put the President in an awkward position. So I think our ability to send constructive legislation on tax reform, regulatory reform, making Obamacare hurt less, and repealing its most egregious portions and replacing it with stuff that makes sense, I think we'll have a lot better chance of success if we control both houses of Congress. And then, of course, you know, we can't really get to where we want to go completely without having somebody in the White House that agrees with our perspective. So I think that'll be a lot easier if we have the microphone over in the Senate in addition to the House to get our message out there. Take one more, maybe? Okay, if there are no others, I'm going to share with you one to-do I have this evening. Sarah already indicated we have a clipboard going around, and if you're not on our email list and you access email, please go ahead and put your name down there. Even if you don't have an email address, put your name down and we'll get in touch, and we'd like to get you involved in our campaign. Please don't believe for a second that a few motivated individuals can't make a difference. It's the only thing that has ever made a difference in politics. That's how some unknown small-town attorney from Bloomington, Indiana, of all places, became the 9th Congressional District Representative. I had a few people who believed in me and asked them to contact their friends and make some introductions. I met a few more. Before I knew it, there are a lot of folks that believed in me enough to give me a try. And it's worked out pretty well, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. So if you want to get involved in something bigger than yourself, please sign up.